Welcome back to Astrovision, where we bring epic 3D prints to life through painting and creativity. If you're new here, this is where we dive deep into the world of 3D printed figures and learn all the techniques to take them from resin to reality. As you can see, I've got a couple of projects in the works, but today, we're focusing on the one and only Gamora. We've already printed the model, but there's still plenty to do before we're ready to start painting. So, let's dive right in. Before we get into the fun stuff, there's a bit of cleanup to do. First, I'm removing all the supports and smoothing out the surface using a few key tools. I start with my hobby knife to carefully slice off any large supports. Then I go in with small files and clippers to smooth out those harder to reach areas. For any stubborn marks or rough spots, I break out my small Dremel for precision sanding. Now that the parts are cleaned up, we're ready to assemble the model. This is where the real magic starts. I'm using glue to bond the larger pieces together first, making sure everything fits snugly. With 3D prints, there are often tiny gaps between the parts, and that's where sealing comes in. To make sure everything looks seamless, I use a combination of plastic putty and plastic wood filler to fill in any gaps. This helps smooth out the surface and ensures that when it's all painted, you won't notice where the pieces connect. Then, for the tighter joints, I bring in UV resin. A thin layer of UV resin seals everything perfectly, and after a quick cure with the UV light, the parts are locked in place seamlessly. This combination of glue, filler, and UV resin gives us a rock-solid, seamless bond. Next up is priming the model, which is essential for getting the paint to adhere properly. I start by priming the base and the main Gamora figure, before moving on to all the smaller accessory pieces. I know, base coating isn't the most thrilling part. But hey, neither is hitting that like and subscribe button, and yet, it's super important. I've been really appreciating the support so far. It's been awesome getting feedback and interacting with you all in the comments. So, please go ahead, click it. Let's build something awesome together. I start with a base coat of purple and work turquoise into the mix for shadows and highlights. I make sure to emphasize the brighter areas to really bring out the depth. This combination of colors makes her suit pop and gives it a more dynamic look. I'm really happy with how this turned out. The subtle undertones of dark purple and green give her a lot of depth. Though I'm not sure the camera fully picks up on how complex the colors really are, hopefully, it comes across. Now, let's move on to the base, which is one of the more unique aspects of this build. I start by applying a white zenithal highlight across the entire base. This technique helps to emphasize the shadows and highlights later, giving the colors that follow more depth and dimension. I paint the alien eggs and the slime together, working from the bottom of the base upward. I start with a vibrant green, laying it down on each rock, then gradually mix in more yellow as I move to higher sections. This transition gives the eggs that eerie, glowing vibe while making the slime look like it's spreading across the surface. The fun part is how the slime oozes up toward Gamora, almost like it's alive. By the time it connects to her legs, it looks like she's trudging through an alien swamp, a great way to tie the character to her environment. To finish it off, I hit the slime with a gloss coat. This really brings out that wet, sticky texture, making it feel like it's still fresh and dripping. Let's kick off the insect detailing by laying down a solid base coat. I opt for skin tones and dark flesh to create a realistic, organic look that contrasts nicely with the alien environment. Once that base is dry, I move on to the exoskeleton. For this, I reach for a vibrant purple coat. This color choice enhances their otherworldly vibe and adds an eye-catching pop against the earthy tones. For the rocky terrain around the base, I begin by layering rich oranges and deep yellows, gradually building up warm tones that give the ground an almost rustic, alien feel. Once the rocks are glowing with those warm hues, I add a sharp contrast by outlining the creeping slime with a deep, dark purple. This brings a dramatic edge to the goo, making it leap off the rocks and adding a real sense of depth to the scene. Finally, I blend the colors together, letting the oranges, yellows, and purples meld seamlessly. This fusion of colors gives the base a surreal, otherworldly vibe, as if the rocks themselves are alive with energy from an alien landscape. Now, it's time to bring Gamora to life. I start with a rich base coat of green, then gradually dry brush lighter shades to make her features pop. Next, I tackle her teeth with an off-white base, followed by a light grey wash between each one, making sure her fierce expression stands out. I like to go back and forth between parts, so let's focus on Gamora's iconic weapons, her curved sword, and the larger alien blaster gun. I begin with a base coat of gunmetal grey, then mix in purples and turquoise to give them a vibrant, otherworldly look. A subtle black wash adds depth and emphasizes the intricate designs, making each weapon feel battle-tested and ready for action. Now, we're moving on to Gamora's silver armor, which is the most time-consuming part of this project. Achieving consistent coverage while transitioning between lighter hues of silver requires patience and precision. To give the armor an alien feel, I blend in colors like turquoise, purple, and green into the highlights and shadows. This adds depth and creates a unique iridescent quality that makes the armor truly stand out. Every brushstroke counts, as I ensure that each part of her armor reflects light beautifully, enhancing her fierce and formidable presence. Next up, we have, well, this part. I'm not entirely sure what it is. It looks like some kind of mysterious bundle or alien bale tied up below her feet. Maybe it's a trophy from one of her battles, or perhaps just some intergalactic decor. Either way, it's getting painted. I start with earthy tones to give it a rugged, well-traveled look. Is it rope? Alien leather? Cosmic burlap? Your guess is as good as mine. I layer on some highlights and shadows, doing my best to bring out its details, before going in and painting a dark rope that looks like it's holding the bundle together. Whatever it is, I think I've nailed the color, and if not, we'll call it artistic interpretation. There we have it, a mysterious yet oddly fitting piece to complete the scene. Let me know in the comments if you have a better idea of what this might be, because I'm still guessing. With the base almost complete, it's time to tackle the last unsettling details, the bugs caught in the sticky alien slime. Their exoskeletons are painted in rich, menacing purples, while their oversized eyes blaze with fiery reds and oranges. These vibrant tones bring an extra layer of creepiness, making the slime feel even more alive. To finish off the base, I dry brush a metallic sheen onto the metal stand that frames the entire piece. It gives the whole setup a polished, museum-like presentation, almost like Gamora herself is on display in an intergalactic exhibit. It's the perfect finishing touch to tie everything together. As always, I save the hardest part for last, the eyes. This is where the soul of the sculpture comes to life, and I'm still honing my skills to capture that spark of realism. With each careful stroke, I'm trying my best to bring Gamora's intense, determined gaze to the forefront. It's a challenge, but one that makes the entire piece truly come alive. To start, I black out the eyes completely. This creates a clean base and helps define their shape. While that dries, I take the opportunity to lay down a nice orange under her eyes. This subtle touch really helps bring out that signature look, tying her closely to both her Fortnite and comic book versions. It's a small detail, but one that adds a lot of character and authenticity to the piece. Once the orange and black base layers are dry, I move on to the whites of her sclera. This step requires a steady hand to keep the lines clean and crisp, ensuring her eyes look sharp and realistic. It's a subtle but essential detail that frames the iris perfectly. Next, I begin working on her iris. I start with a deep, rich purple, carefully shaping it to match her intense expression. This color choice feels bold and unique, adding a sense of depth and intrigue to her gaze. With the final touch of the pupil, her eyes are complete, and we're ready for the big reveal. I think you're really going to like this one. The subtle details in her gaze bring so much life to the sculpture, and I'm thrilled with how it all came together. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, comment, and subscribe. As a new and growing channel, I deeply appreciate the support and feedback you've been sharing. It keeps me inspired to keep creating. Now, here are the final results. In my office, I've placed her right next to Thanos, a true Marvel duo. Their colors and poses complement each other perfectly, making this one of my favorite displays yet. I hope you enjoyed the process. Thanks so much for watching.